Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Another minute, we'll get started. I see 1, 2. I see 3 of us so far. Okay, it's 7:01, so let's get started. This is Monday, April the 8th, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Finance Committee. Present at the start of the meeting is Councilor Greenberg from Ward 1. Councilor Mickley contacted me just a little while ago. He's having some travel problems, and will do his best to get here. So he's not here at this moment. Councilor Malachy from Ward 3, Councilor Gentile from Ward 4, Councilor Bixby from Ward 5, Councilor Grossman from, Councilor Bixby from Ward 6. Sorry, Martha. Councilor Grossman from Ward 7. And we're also joined by Councilor Block from Ward 4.
I'm here too.
Oh, and Councilor Humphrey from Ward 5. Thanks, Bill. All right, so the first item tonight is docket item 150-24, Her Honor the Mayor, requesting authorization to provide for the payment of funeral and burial expenses not exceeding $2,000 of any firefighter or police officer killed while in the performance of their duty, which procedurally means accepting Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 100G. I know that Maureen was prepared to present this, but I think we have, and also Law, but I think we have a few people that may be eclipse seeking. So Steve Curley has agreed to step in and present this item for us. Steve?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So this is essentially, as it's listed in the docket item, a procedural matter, just giving the city the option, if there ever is a police or firefighter killed in the line of duty, that the city would be able to pay $2,000 towards funeral expenses, in order for the city to pay it without going to council in the future. It's just something that would need to be accepted by the city. And obviously, we hope that this never comes to fruition. But
Okay, any questions on the item? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
I'll move it.
Okay, Council Malachy was first. Motion to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Next item, 166-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend a Massachusetts MOTT budget grant in the amount of $42,500 to improve stormwater management and beautification of the Cheesecake Brook section that runs alongside Albemarle Park. Commissioner, are you here on this one, I hope?
Hi, yes, good evening, Chair Gentile. I am prepared to present on all of the grants
Okay.
that we're
Go
looking to
ahead.
receive. So I just want to start off by thanking our state delegation. If you've been working with parks or the conservation departments on some of these projects, then you will know that we are receiving some grant funding to help us out with a few projects that we have been working on. Unfortunately, when the state budget had a deficit, the governor did cut our allocations by 50%. So we have worked through each of these projects to bring forward something for each that we think will have a big impact. And we've dealt with that a little bit differently for each of them. So I'll try to kind of go over what the projects will come to fruition as now. So our first project on the list is the beautification of the Cheesecake Brook. For this first one, we did decide to work with another project that we have undertaken, which is the addition of a bridge to cross the Cheesecake Brook. So if you're familiar with the bridge that we replaced about a year ago, I believe it got hit by a car. The current bridge that's there right now is about 300 feet away from the pool house and crosses the brook to get pedestrians from one side to the other. This project will add a second bridge, which will go across the brook, and it'll be on the other side of the pool house, about 500 feet up, so closer to the Craft Street side of the park. The new bridge is very important. We're going to have a new pool at Albemarle. We're going to have updated fields, and we're going to have pickleball courts, 6 dedicated pickleball courts. So we're expecting quite a bit of influx of visitation, especially during some of our peak season. So these funds, the $42,500, would be used to do some plantings, do some beautification that would be right in conjunction with the new bridge that would be added. That will help us to, just fit the bridge in, make sure that we have good water runoff and water quality of everything going into the Cheesecake Brook there. Chair Gentile, would you like me to go through all 3, or would you like me to stop for each one for questions?
I think that we should take them one at a time.
Okay.
All right. Are there questions on this docket item? All right, Council Maliki.
Just curious, does this get us any phosphorus credits?
That's a good question. I can check with the team and bring that back to you if it will do that. It will, it'll be plantings, shrubs, and some sort of minimal runoff management for stormwater. So it may, but it would be fairly minimal in scale. But I can find out for you if they have any calculations for that.
Well, McGonagall said the other night, every little bit helps.
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
And it's to specifically around the bridge because there's some reason that runoff would increase otherwise or something, the bridge?
Not so much. I think, just beautifying that particular section, combining these funds. So part of what we tried to put together for this project was to combine them with a project that was already happening, so that we could utilize the funding available and do something that would be impactful. So because they're going to be disturbing the land there as the bridge is under construction, this will just help us, put it back in a way that will have some more plantings, some shrubs, some trees, those types of things.
Great. Okay. Be nice to have that second bridge too. Okay, great. Thanks.
Council Greenberg.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I was just curious what the time frame is for that second bridge.
Soon. So Commissioner Morse is working with DPW on this construction piece, and I believe that this will be done probably as soon as the weather gets nice enough. So I think all of these projects are looking to be completed around the end of June, is sort of the timeline that these grants have. So construction should begin fairly soon.
Thank you.
All set?
All set, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have a question on the item? Seeing none, can I get a motion to accept the grant?
I'll move it.
Okay, Counselor Greenberg moves approval. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? I see we've been joined by Council Lipoff from Ward 8. Welcome. So I think that means we have 7 right now. All those in favor already said aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Next is 169-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend a Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism budget earmark grant in the amount of $75,000 to make improvements to 3 trails. Kennard Park, Kessler Woods, and the Upper Falls Greenery. Commissioner.
Yes, thank you. So the 3 trails, Kennard Park, Kessler Woods, and the Upper Falls Greenway were specified by the state in this grant award that we've received. For this project, we had not put together the full plan of what each trail would need to receive. And so we were able to base once we had our budget amount from the state in this new allocation, we based the improvements on this newly budgeted amount. We're working closely with the Conservation Department. They've graciously agreed to take point on the first 2 locations. Jennifer Steele has plans to repair the boardwalk that is at Kennard Park, and she's looking to put an additional boardwalk at Kessler Woods. The Kessler Woods boardwalk would create a footpath connection from Harwich Road to LaGrange Street. The third project on the list, the Upper Falls Greenway, the Parks Department will be looking to improve the space that will connect the current parkland, so the Greenway area where the bocce courts currently are, will now make a connection to the new Northland property where the splash pad will be. We're expecting that splash pad to come online later this year in the fall. And so making that connection point between the 2 properties is very important. And we want to use these funds to assist us with that project.
All set?
Yes, thank you.
Council Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to move approval on the item and express my appreciation both to our local team and the state delegation for making sure that we got this. This is part of a lot of efforts going on at the same time in Newton Upper Falls, which is fantastic. Beautifying and connecting everything there, doing the intersection project with the MassWorks grant and everything. That's really nice to see a lot of resources going into that area. And of course, also excited about the 2 parks projects in Ward 8 as well. Thank you.
Council Lipoff.
Yep, just want to piggyback on those good comments. Kennard and Kessler are 2 pathways that I and my family always use, and they're fantastic assets of Ward 8. And love the fact that we have this money, and love to approve it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? We do have a motion from Council Humphrey. Okay, seeing no other questions or hands, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next item is 168-24. Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend a Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism earmark grant in the amount of $50,000 for Farlow Park.
All right, thank you again. So for Farlow Park, this one was actually quite challenging because the need here is to do a full restoration of the pond basin. And so half of the budget amount was just not going to be something that would be able to move that project forward. We couldn't do a half restoration project. So fortunately, one of the things that the mayor did with the ARPA funding was set aside a reserve account It has more funds in it than this piece, but this is one of the things that it will allow this project to move forward by allocating ARPA funds to basically match the state amount. So our total project amount, we did expect this to come in right around 100,000. And we are at about, I think 104,000 is what we have a contract that we'll be getting underway with. Again, the construction timeline for these projects is the end of June. And so with it being already April, we have our contractor ready to go. We've done our preliminary meetings with the contractor. They will need to have an extended period of drier weather than what we have been having. So if everyone could please keep your fingers crossed, it's been another wet season for us. But as soon as we have the right temperatures and are able to get the pond basin dry, we'll be doing the restoration work. That's going to include crack repair, sealing work around the joints, and resurfacing of the actual concrete basin. And that will be, really nice improvement that we've been working on over there for quite some time, I think, discussing this project getting underway. Thank you.
Council Greenberg.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to express my appreciation to Rep. Khan and Senator Cream for allocating these funds from the state. Newton Corner Neighborhood Association is very, very pleased that this project is going forward. This is an important structure in this historic park, and thank the mayor also for allocating the ARPA funds to match that grant. So much appreciation. Thank you.
Council Lipoff, is that a leftover hand?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. Council Malachi.
Yeah, I was just wondering, maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought this was done before, but am I thinking of the bridge work, not the pond basin itself?
So, Councilor Maliki, you may be thinking of the original work that was done at Farlow Park when the pond was restored. So this pond was actually fully underground for many, many years. I'm not exactly sure how long it was underground, but the city had a CPA funded project that basically, dug up the pond, did the restoration work, and brought it back to its beauty. It also created and redid the bridge that goes over the pond as the connection point from the playground side over to the park side. Just creating a nice, really walkable area with the pond feature. The issue that has been happening for the last few years is there has been some leaking of the pond basin. And so this is some additional work to, I guess, add to the restoration with some of that sealant and redoing some of the concrete areas.
Okay, so this was actually never done before, since the pond basin was created, what, 100 years ago or something?
Yeah, when they dug it up, I mean, they did do restoration work to it, but I think the scope of it was somewhat limited, and so this just adds a little bit more to the restoration for the actual basin. So a skim coat of concrete over the whole shell, and sealing the joints because we are hoping to stop. It's a slow leak, but it is leaking some water.
And what they do to it will be kind of like winterproof. The freeze thaw cycle won't undo the work.
So, I mean, the New England winters are difficult. Next, we're going to talk about tennis courts, which are, probably similar in the way that they do crack. I think we'll probably have to, from time to time, do some restorative work here, but hopefully not to this scale. This is doing the entire pond basin. So, smaller crack repairs, things that could be done on more of a maintenance basis. We'd be looking to keep up with those. But this is really taking that pond shell and giving it a good coating of, more than just paint, I guess. So more than what was originally done.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's all the questions I see. Council Greenberg, would you like to move this item?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Was that you, Council Humphrey, opposed?
No, I said aye.
Okay, is someone in opposition, or was it just a late yes? All right, sounds like it was a late, yes. Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes, 7-0 is what I heard. Okay, next item on the top of page 2 is 176-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to transfer $165,000 from current year budget reserve for the purpose of resurfacing of the tennis courts at Newton South High School. This item, you may remember, was accepted as a late file at our last full council meeting. I am doing my best to honor the president's request to limit late files. The reason that I was fine with accepting this was the fact that in order to get these courts ready sooner rather than later for the season, we really needed to take it up as early as possible. As a matter of fact, we're taking it up ahead of programs and services. But I did speak to the chair and he was fine with that because of what we're trying to accomplish here is if we're gonna fix these courts, well, let's get them back in play as soon as possible. So having said that, I'll turn this over to the commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Gentile. And just to let everyone know, greatly appreciate the timing on this one. I will be at Programs and Services this Wednesday night to present this project as well. And we did have a hold on our contractor's schedule for a mid-June resurfacing of the courts. They were able to squeeze us in at this good time of year. It's really important that we try to get the full high school season in. I've spoken to the athletic director. They'll be completed the high school season, and this work will be able to happen. It's going to be about a 2 to 3 week process, but we will be able to get this done before our busy summer season starts with our tennis camps at both North and South. So really good timing here from the city's perspective. If you don't mind, I was going to share my screen and try to bring up my slides. Let's see, just give me one moment, please. Can everyone see the presentation?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so the Newton South High School tennis court restoration. I want to start off by just actually drawing everyone's attention to this photo. This is what we would like the 12 courts that are at the high school, the South High School, to look like once this project is complete. We had the four courts that are closest to Lions Drive done last summer. So these are 2 of the 4 courts that have had the complete restoration and resurfacing done to them. These 4 courts were in, I guess, the worst condition. They had some larger crack areas. 2 of the courts were unusable by the high school team last tennis season. And so we did have some ARPA funding from the mayor that was specifically for courts, and working with our team and our Friends of Newton Tennis, as well as the high school athletics department, we did prioritize getting these 4 fixed. So for this current spring season, they will be playing on the new 4 courts that were completed. One of the things that happens when we do the courts, of course, you see the paint and the lines get redone. They do power wash the courts, and when they do that, we will see where any water settles. So if there's any puddling, they will do the self-leveling material that will help us get rid of the puddling. And the play surface is also improved with some traction. There is a sort of a sand slurry mix to the finish of the courts, which helps them be not slippery during play. This slide shows what we're going to be looking to do with the remaining 8 courts. So there's a total of 12 courts here on site. On this slide, you see a little bit of the history of the courts. They were redone last in 2015. The membrane crack repair that we do is expected to last 7 to 10 years. So we are on track with when we would expect these repairs to need to be done. 2,000 feet of crack repair is substantial, but this is over the remaining 8 courts. And if you can see under the net, you get some cracking that goes along the seams of the courts that can be over really all of the courts. You'll see those cracks. So it is substantial, but you know, it is safe and able to be played on for this season. The lower picture shows what the temporary repair looks like. So along with the 4 courts that were completely resurfaced, we did a temporary crack sealant to be able to get the courts in playable shape until we were able to bring the remainder of this project forward. This will allow us to get through the season. And this is really not the proper type of sealant that we'll see when we do the full-scale project. They will clean out all of these cracks and do a full membrane repair. Again, that repair will last for many years. And I would just add that these courts are deemed to be the highest priority by the city's Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department, Newton Public Schools Athletics Department, and the Friends of Newton Tennis. I believe I already shared the timeline, but we would be looking to get going on this project very soon as well. And that is all. I can kind of just flash between the 2 pictures one more time so you can get a sense of what the full-scale repair will provide us with. And then I can stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other again, if that works.
All right, questions? One question that I had, and Connor or Perry, maybe you or Steve could answer it. The source is budget reserve. Any idea why we're going to budget reserve on this as opposed to free cash or some other source? Perry, do you know?
I can certainly get back to you on that. It was a decision I think Maureen made in conversation with the mayor. I don't know the specific reason for one or the other in this situation.
All right, if we could get something on that, I meant to ask Maureen and I did not at an earlier meeting, so I'd just be curious as to why we're using budget reserve. Any other?
If you don't mind, I can just add in a little bit that typically the city budget's about $500,000 a year in this budgeted reserve line for unforeseen capital improvements. They have used 300,000 back in November for an item, leaving us 200,000 before this item. So it's typically some of these smaller range ones, but I do not know the exact reason of why the Maureen or the mayor would have chosen this line.
And that's why I asked, is the use of the word correctly of unforeseen. I would think that we knew the conditions of these courts for a while now and that we were gonna have to make some improvements. So that's really why I asked the question, but you know, obviously the work needs to be done. And I certainly plan on supporting it. And as long as we get something prior to the to our meeting that explains it, I'll be fine. Does anyone else have a question? Councilor Bixby.
Yeah, I'll just, Chair, second your questions and look forward to hearing something about that. And I guess the question I'll frequently try and ask in these circumstances is just if there's any information on what it was weighed against. This seems like a very important project that needs to be done, but I think that's, helpful information for us to have. And I guess Commissioner, I was just wondering, what's the most important, not important, excuse me, expensive piece of this? Is it the labor or is it the materials for court resurfacing like this?
That's a good question. I don't know the breakdown right off of the top of my head, but I think the labor is probably more than half. But the materials have been increasing as well over the last several years. So I think it's probably, I don't know the exact split, but I'd say more than half with the labor. As I said, it is a 2 to 3 week process. So there's going to be several layers added, drying time in between, before they'll move on to the next step. So they're going to be coming to the site multiple times over those 3 weeks. One of the things that we did before, and we'll try to work with the contractor to do this, we have of the 8 that need to be resurfaced still, we have 4 on one side and 4 on the other. So they were able to work on one bank of 4 while the other side was left open for public use, and then switch over once those were complete into the other side. So we'll try to do that as well. They've been very flexible with us, to try to make sure the courts are available for people as well. We'd hate to shut them down for a full 3 weeks.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's just interesting with these specialized materials. So I appreciate the info.
Yeah, and happy to share more information with you too. I have the exact quotes. If you'd like me to share it, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks.
Council Malachi.
Just made me think of another question. Can they be played on in between the layers? It sounded like that's what you said.
No. So what they would do is we would completely lock out one side of the court. So the fencing is kind of separated on each of those sides. So they would do the layers, have the recommended drying time in between each, come back, do the next layer, dry. That side of the courts would stay closed throughout all of that. And then once that was completed, they'd switch over to the other side of the courts.
Okay, thanks.
So, since this item is still going to programs and services, I don't know who's going to be there. I assume maybe you will be, Commissioner, or I don't know, Perry, if you will be, but maybe the question about budget reserve could be addressed there and put into the report. And then we don't have to worry about somebody getting back to us, prior to the meeting. So it can be addressed there. I'm sure there's a logical explanation. I don't see any other hands. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Okay, Council Malachi has moved approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, next item, 172-24, Councilor Gentile and the Comptroller requesting a discussion with the Finance Committee regarding a new contract or extension for audit services. I'm going to briefly explain the reason for the docket item, and then I'm going to turn it over to our Comptroller, Mr. Curley, to get into the details. We recently completed, along with our current auditor, CLA Clifton Larson Allen, the 23 audit. I believe that it is coming up in our financial audit subcommittee on Thursday, correct, Council Malachi?
That's right.
Okay. And I spoke to Cassidy earlier. You do have an item on there for the 2024 audit. And under that item, I hope you'll actually discuss this item too, so that we can get the subcommittee's input on this. So we are in the process of concluding our current contract with CLA. This is their fifth audit. And in order to get started on our next audit, we need to get somebody on board sooner rather than later. They literally will start doing some work, Steve tells me, in May. This is also one of those services where it does not have to go out to bid. But we would probably, even if we wanted to use the same company rather than an extension, we would be looking at a new contract probably again for a duration of 5 years. So with that, I'm gonna ask Steve if he could also add to that. Again, this is just trying to keep those on the committee aware of just another item that obviously is important to the finances of the city, and to get folks input on it, so we can get a firm, whether it's a new firm or our current firm, on board as soon as possible so they can get started on their work. Steve?
Thank you. So as Chair Gentile mentioned, we have been with CLA, and we've actually been with them. So they just finished 5 years of audit through the most recent contract. We've been with them very far back. CLA merged with Sullivan and Rogers in 2014. So we've been with CLA since 2014. Prior to that, we were with Sullivan and Rogers at least as far back as 2004, which is as far back as I could see. Over that period of time, we've had several different principals, which some of you are familiar with. Matt Hunt, he's the principal that's overseen the audits for the last several years. We've had different principals, we've had different managers who do the day-to-day work of the audit, as well as different staffing under the managers. But we have had them for quite some time. The services we'd be looking to get provided to us would be conducting the annual independent financial audit of the ACFR, as well as the federal awards programs, which would be known as the single audit, preparation of the management letter with recommendations for improvements and internal control guidance, as well as being able to give us guidance throughout the year. And they do work with the schools on compliance in regards to DESE. So the last contract was 5 years. We would hope to do another one for 5 years. It is not subject to an RFP, as Chair Gentile mentioned. It's exempt under 30B, which is the Uniform Procurement Act. There are a few options. We could, if we were to choose to go a completely different firm, could stay with the same firm and the same group, or we could stay with the same firm and get a completely different group, new set of eyes on the project. I can stop there and answer any questions either about the current firm that we use or the audit in general.
Okay, before I ask for questions, Council Maliki, before I forget, I think that you have 2 vacancies on your committee now, so I'm not sure if you're aware of it. I know you knew
Yeah.
one of them, but then I guess someone's moving. So if you could get with the president and others to try and get those filled,
Okay.
that would be appreciated. Council Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just, sorry, I have, Eliza's got my hair in her hand here, so apologies for the funny appearance on the screen. It's actually amazing to me that 5 years have gone by since we rehired Clifton Larson Allen. I remember sitting on a subcommittee that reviewed different RFP responses and hired them. So I just wanted to follow up on the point that it's not subject to RFP and ask for a little bit more information about how you expect that we're going to go through this process. I recall it from the last time. Maybe it wasn't exactly the type of RFP that we're talking about here, but would like to understand that. Thanks.
So last time we did go through the RFP process. It is not necessary. My records going back to about the 20 years when we've been essentially with this same firm, different names, seems like we would do an RFP for 5 years, and then the next 5 years we did not do an RFP, and then do an RFP for 5 years, and then not RFP. That sort of sequencing. It is not necessary to do an RFP, but we did do one 5 years ago, as you mentioned.
So if we don't do an RFP, who's going to make the hiring decision this time around?
I believe I would work with Chair Gentile.
If we, let me take a shot at that. If we don't do an RFP, then I think the message is, and I'm perfectly comfortable with this, is that we are going to hire CLA. We would negotiate a 5-year contract with them would be my suggestion. And I was talking to Steve about this earlier. Probably one that, first of all, it's, I don't know if this was stated or not, but we're talking about a contract that is still under $100,000 a year for all of the services that are provided. I think, Steve, would you tell me we're around 90,000 all in right now?
Yes, it was 90,000 for the FY23 audit.
Okay.
And their increases over the last 5 years have been very modest. About 1,500 or less than 1,500 a year. It's gone up each year.
So we would probably speak to them about numbers that maybe start where this one left off, and then a small escalator, which is what we did the last time. I think it was roughly 2.5% a year. So we try to negotiate something like that, as long as the decision is made to get new people into the room, a whole new set of eyes. We don't want the same people being the principal players in doing the audit, as Steve had mentioned. That would be something that I would want to try, insist on, and they've already been made aware of that, and they don't have a problem with that. But if we're going to keep the same firm, and there's good reason to do so, they have a very good reputation in this specific area of government audits. I don't know if you spoke a little bit to that, Steve, but
they are the 8th largest accounting firm in the country, and they are the leaders in governmental accounting. They were also very much at the forefront in a lot of ARPA reporting. Nationally, they were doing ARPA seminars for the final rule and all of that throughout the last several years, with not only ARPA, but the CARES Act and different things like that. They, during COVID, they brought everything, pretty much everything electronic. So now we have a portal where over the course of the audit, I probably upload 150 some odd items that they request. And then they spend roughly a week and a half on site where they have full access to our financial software, and they go in and run everything through there and look for all supporting documents they need. But they have streamlined a lot, and it seemed to really make things more efficient on both the city side and assume on their side as well.
hopefully, does that answer the question about?
Yeah, no, it does. I've always found them to be excellent, and I think there's a lot of value in continuity as well. So the answer makes sense. I actually recall that it was part of their policy in the interviews with them 5 years ago that they rotate principals after a certain number of years for exactly the reasons that you spoke to. Just one last question about them. I know 5 years ago, one of the things they sold us on was being able to really help us with our Munis implementation. we're obviously kind of over the major hurdle there. I don't know if there are sort of extra steps that still need to be addressed. I am wondering if you found that they lived up to that,
Yes,
sort of
so
offer and intent to be helpful there.
yes, so they did, they were a large part in the original setup in getting Munis before we were live, getting it all set up so everything worked correctly. And then I was more of the building the chart of accounts, getting the data over, reconciled and all that, but they worked a lot on the actual setup and the behind the scenes of how all of that worked.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, are there any other questions? Council Bixby.
So how, I guess, perhaps you were getting this, Chair, but how do we then make this decision? How does this go forward?
So what I would like to do is, again, unless there's opposition, I would like to wait until Council Maliki has had her meeting on Thursday to see if anything comes out of that meeting, and I'd be wondering if there was any concerns, because the audit subcommittee interfaces with CLA a fair amount. So I'd be interested in hearing what the committee says. But if in fact the committee is comfortable with our current auditors, then like tonight, I'm gonna ask for us to hold. You know, I don't want to NAN it yet. I want to hold it, see what the subcommittee says. And if they're on the same page and keeping this firm, then Steve and I will talk to them about, you know, how much they would be suggesting for their services. And as long as that was in line with where we're at now and modest increases over the 5 years, then we would report that back to you and would get them working sooner rather than later. That's the way I see approaching it. Does that answer your question, Council Bixby? Did we lose her? All right, well, hopefully we'll get her back. I see Council Maliki has her hand up.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to make sure I understood, Mr. Curley, I think you said, or maybe it was, Councilor Grossman, 5 years ago, we did do the RFP process. Was that right?
Yes.
Okay, so and would the policy be that we would not want to go less frequently than every other 5 years to do the RFP process?
I'm not sure there's an actual policy on that. I think it is a good idea, you know, every 10 years to completely redo and refresh the process like we seemingly have been doing. I'm not sure of anything that's actually a set policy on that. I don't know if Chair Gentile knows.
There is not a set policy. And honestly, if we were going to do that this time, and this is probably my fault as much as anybody's, we probably should have started it sooner than this, right, Steve? I mean, because we got to put out the RFP, you know, get bids back and so forth. And we want to get these guys going in May, and that would be a tight timeline. But next time, I think it would make all the sense in the world to, you know, to do an RFP. We just would start the process earlier.
That was my next question, actually. How long would the RFP process take? How long would we give firms to get back with us with proposals?
That I would have to look into. I don't know what the standard is, especially for the auditing services may have different standards than general, because they don't have to go through an RFP. So they may follow kind of their own standards. So I'm not sure that the dates on that.
Plus, it'll take a little while to put together, an RFP. If we're gonna do
Yeah.
it, we need to get a thorough RFP together too, which will take a little bit of time. So that's why I say, this wasn't really on our radar, maybe as soon as it should have been, and, if we were gonna go the RFP process, we probably should have started earlier. But I think part of it too is, folks that have been around for a while and have been dealing with this company, they do good work. And everybody seems to have been comfortable with the quality of the work that they have provided us with. So that, that obviously, comes into play. Not to say that they should be, auditors for life, but,
Right.
there is a definite comfort level there, and as long as they treat us fairly, financially, I think that it makes sense. But again, wasn't a decision that was just up to me, which is why we're bringing it to the rest of you tonight. Any other questions, or else I'm gonna ask for a motion to hold. We'll see what plays out over the course of the next few days. And then, we'll go from there and fill you in on what happened. Hopefully the news from the audit subcommittee will be positive and that they're comfortable with the firm, and then we'll quickly get with, it's pretty easy to track Matt Hunt down, and he's pretty straightforward guy, so I don't think we'll have and I do think that they value having the city of Newton as, one of their clients, without a doubt. So hopefully, getting a reasonable contract from them, shouldn't be that difficult. Anyone else? Council Grossman?
Thank you. The only thing I was going to say, and I don't expect this is going to be an issue because I have found them to be truly professional, reasonable, understanding, and I do think they value the relationship with us. But if you find yourself in a difficult situation in terms of the financial negotiation, particularly because we are a little bit up against a wall in timing, you could always consider negotiating a 1-year extension and going through an RFP process next year. Otherwise, I'm totally fine with what you're describing, and I think the relationship with them is quite good, and they deserve to continue working with us if they want to. Thank you.
That's a good suggestion.
I'll move hold.
Okay, Council Lipoff has moved hold. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of hold, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the item is held. Two more items, 174-24 is honor the mayor requesting the reappointment of James Pellegrini, 14 Adams Court, Newton, as a constable for the city of Newton for a term to expire on February 26, 2027. As is the practice, this gentleman has been, this is a reappointment. It's one of several appointments that he's enjoyed over the years. He's a former police officer. As far as I know, he does a very good job as constable. So I did not ask him to come in. I didn't know of any issues. Councilor Greenberg.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. Mr. Pellegrini is a Ward 1 resident, and I'd like to move approval.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, motion to approve has been made. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 7-0. Last item is 157-24. This is the item that was docketed by myself, Council Block, Laredo, and Krinsman, asking the law department to solicit proposals from outside special counsel to assist the city in the analysis of the city's rights and remedies to ensure compliance with and enforcement of applicable permits and approvals at the Turtle Lane site in Auburndale. I did hear from our city solicitor, and she explained that she was unavailable tonight, as was Jonah Temple. Just for the benefit of everyone having the same information, I think some of you are aware that the city did in fact send a demand letter to the developer in which they were requesting fines and penalties a little bit under $7 million is what it all totaled up to. So that letter, that demand letter, went out to the developer. Hopefully it will have a positive effect of getting folks to do what they are being asked to do. And I do know that there is a meeting tomorrow at the site with a number of different departments, including, I think, health and it just from a public safety standpoint, to take a look at some issues along those lines. And again, hopefully something positive will come out of that. And that, as I understand it, is tomorrow. That's pretty much nothing more than that really to report. I don't know, Randy, if you wanted to add anything or had a question.
No, I was hoping to hear a little information from the law department, but I don't have any additional information. Well, again, just full disclosure, the bank, Dedham Savings, which provided the loan, has filed for receivership and has asked the court to appoint a receiver to finish the project. I don't know where that complaint stands or how long it will take, but it's at least a movement in the right direction.
So we had a meeting, we were asked to meet with the law department on this item. And as you might imagine, this wasn't exactly their favorite docket item so far this year. I think we can say that. Though it was done not with the intent of embarrassing anybody, but just to say sometimes you need a new, fresh set of eyes that might have an idea on a path that is yet to be chosen to get the desired outcome. And that's really what it was all about. But we were strongly asked to give the law department some time to continue to try and work this whole thing out. So we have pretty much stood down, right, Randy? Is that a fair? So, and to give them the opportunity. And as I say, in the meantime, this demand letter is no small item. It was what, 6,900,000 and change, I think. So that's pretty serious. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. We made it clear that we don't want to be continuing to hold. It's 8 years now that since this special permit was granted. And I know that all of you have issues in your ward. I realize that where someone just doesn't do the right thing, as far as a property site or whatever, but there's been nothing that I can think of in 40 years that rises to the level of what's going on at that site in Auburndale, and it has to get resolved. So anyway, that's basically it for now. And I would just ask, if there's no questions or comments, I would just ask for a motion to hold, and we can conclude our business. Anybody making the motion? All right, Chair can make a
I'll move
motion.
hold.
All right, Council Grossman moves hold. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the item is held by a vote of 7-0, and I promise you, unless there's something substantial, substantive to report, I won't put it on the agenda again. All right, that takes care of our business this evening, unless I'm missing something. Once again, thank you all for showing and for being on time. And at that, I would say that the meeting is adjourned, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.